Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night to you lovely folks joining me here nice and early over at Marvel Snap Zone. Welcome back for yet another fantastic daily deck feature segment showing you some of the coolest decks out there that you guys in the community have been having success with in pools all over the place with all kinds of cards. Today, got a sweet one that was shared with us on Twitter by user Kakazu_right that recently reached Infinite. It's a list that we kind of wanted to showcase in our decks that made it to Infinite this week, but didn't quite have enough space to get everything into that one video. So, taking the time to share it with you today. A really interesting one this shared by them with a Cerebro list based around 2 power, trying to utilize the multiple bodies offered by Brood. Cerebro is a fan favorite card. If you're not familiar with it, there you go. It is on screen for you now. It is a 3-cost 0 power unit that simply says your highest power cards gain +2 power as an ongoing effect. It's really powerful and definitely worth building a deck around, especially when you can combine it with Mystique, who of course another fantastic powerful 3-cost card that will let you duplicate the last ongoing ability you played. Playing this alongside Cerebro on turn 6 means you're going to have a great shot at just giving +4 power to everything out of nowhere, which your opponent may not expect. You can build Cerebro in many ways based around many different powers. However, our user here, Kakazu, has gone for 2 power, which is a fantastically common one that does a great job of giving you many bodies for cheap costs. So we've got a couple of 1-drops here that fit the bill in this regard. Iceman, of course, a very popular all-star in many decks, just a fantastic on-reveal effect, happens to have 2 power, much like Korg, another one that offers plenty of power for his cost, also happens to have 2 power while disrupting the opponent a little bit in the process. Speaking of disruption, Yondu also fitting a very similar bill, little bit of disruption on your opponent's side for another 1-cost card that happens to have 2 power, nice and cheap and nice and easy to get into play. One of my favourite cards in this deck is Invisible Woman. You'll find at the moment a lot of the ongoing effects in the game are being punished by Enchantress or similar effects like Rogue that are removing your powerful ongoing effects before you have a chance to really get them going. Invisible Woman offers you some level of protection in keeping those cards safe if you want to play them out earlier behind something like Invisible Woman, who will take the brunt of Enchantress if required. Also happens to have 2 power, which makes it a perfect fit for this deck. Mr. Sinister, multiple bodies across 1 card for just 2 energy, both of which will have 2 power base, meaning they will both receive the buff from your Cerebro. Scorpion here, 2 cost, 2 power, once again seeing the theme all around. Another great on reveal effect, so you're getting some utility out of playing this cheap body that will get buffed later on. One of the all-stars of this version of the deck, however, is Brood. Brood is going to offer you 3 bodies, all of which have 2 power on the same location for just 3 energy. Makes it very easy to fill up a location to get all these bonuses from Cerebro and Mystique. Of course, Death's Domain is a hot location right now, so it'll be interesting to see whether or not Brood is capable of leveraging that for us too by getting some bodies into what might be an otherwise not accessible location. Mr. Fantastic in name and nature. 2 power, exactly what we're looking for, but providing you with some additional power to other locations either side of it to give us a little bit more reach in terms of our final turns of play. Storm here, one of the better 3-cost cards in the game, happens to also have 2 power, will let you shut off a location from your opponent, which is pretty good for you if you intend on juicing up the amount of power inside that location later on, if you've already filled it nice and early. Last but not least, Blue Marvel. Bit of an interesting inclusion in this deck, you might think, given that it has 3 power and might screw with Cerebro, but it really doesn't, because it brings everything up to 3 power, including itself, which means it then gets your Cerebro buffs, which make it a final endgame piece that fits perfectly into this deck. Really sweet one this, don't see it explored too often, and is definitely showing you one of the sweeter pull 3 build arounds, so we are going to jam some games with Cerebro today and see how it feels when all is said and done. So let's see what we can do with Cerebro 2. Let's see if this deck's got the legs it needs to hold its own. Okay, so pretty happy to extend, I should say, Iceman into Mojo World. Gonna want to be filling this up with multiple bodies, and getting ourselves on the board early seems like a good way to go. He says, before walking into a world ship and losing his will to live. Okay, I imagine world ship is going to be kind of a hard one for this deck to win. Okay, we're in trouble. We could definitely do with Cerebro Mystique. I'm not sure how on God's Group. What the hell? Why was this? Okay. Scarlet Witch turns this into Bar Sinister. What an absolute train wreck. Well, I'm not going to count this as one of today's games, but I am going to leave it in the video. Because what the hell? Thank you, Marvel Snap. Unsurprisingly, some variants catching up with us a smidge there, so don't worry about that too much. World Shipping to Bar Sinister, not a game that this deck is interested in playing, so we will try that again. Alright, Fist Tower largely irrelevant for an archetype like this, just going to extend into it what should be fairly safely. Start getting some bodies in play here with Korg, little bit of disruption. Okay, the Rock not great against what looks to be Patriot. We can start extending some bodies out, so just going to keep filling here. I don't really want to play into Niveldir, it'll screw with Cerebro. So we're going to try and avoid it if we can. Probably Storm it out, maybe. Yeah, if we play Mr. Fantastic mid turn 3 and Storm and Iceman turn 4, well, okay, maybe we just do it all in one go. From Project Pegasus. Okay, we draw the Cerebro too, so that really is quite solid. Let's just storm out locations, fill some stuff up. Put it with the Onslaught into Project Pegasus. A little bit scary if we expect them to be Patriot, but we'll see if we can race. Storm going to take Nidavellir off the table, so we're not suddenly having extra power in the middle here. Iceman will ice a card in our opponent's hand, and we draw Mr. Sinister. That's perfect. So let's slot this in to the flooding area before it floods out. Opponent with the Thing mid. So they have this one right now, but hopefully Cerebro plus Mystique can take care of that. Alright, really would like to draw Mystique here to juice this up to the maximum on the final turn of the game. Opponent has their Patriot, which is pretty unfortunate. I don't think we beat that due to this Onslaught. We'll try our best. We draw a Yondu. Okay, not quite what we were looking for. We are definitely losing mid here, unfortunately. I don't think this is enough, but it's going to show you the game plan in a pretty reasonable way, at least. Opponent with an Abomination at the end. This is not enough power, I don't believe. We eat their Shocker and flip Cerebro. Unfortunately, we're only 14 and 16 power, respectively, on the side here. Not quite enough. A good showcase of what the deck's trying to do, though. If we draw Mystique on that final turn of the game, we get to race Onslaught plus Patriot, which is a pretty good showing, I think. So no dice in that first one. Let's try and take another one and have a little bit of extra luck in the process. Alrighty, some nice cheap bodies here again to just get onto the board nice and early. We do find Mystique, going to be looking for Cerebro now to pair with her. Sunspot from the opponent. Doesn't really narrow down what we're playing against. Rocket Raccoon being shredded. Rocket is a bit of an interesting one. Don't see too much of that these days. Baxter building. Okay. Pretty happy to just play Mr. Sinister off into Fist Tower here. Keep building a location. Probably Brood mid next turn, if nothing else. Mr. Sinister back from our opponent. Okay. Death's Domain flipping up, finally. Kind of wish we'd played here a little earlier now, but we weren't exactly to know. So I'm actually going to Brood into Death's Domain here, with the intention of finding our Cerebro to buff up the 2-power Broodlings that get left behind. And hopefully win Death's Domain that way. Opponent will Ironheart. That's pretty bad for us. Gonna have to find that Cerebro now. We find Storm. Not exactly what we were looking for. So we can just storm out Fisk Tower. Really need to draw this Cerebro now. 5 cards in our deck, 2 shots at it. Opponent will Jessica Jones. Pretty good for them, honestly, given that we just stormed out Fisk Tower. Iceman only got 1 more shot. And unfortunately, we got to leave space open for it too. So I guess I just Iceman here on the right to freeze an opponent's card in their hand. Even though I know it will die. Come on, Cerebro. We're going to need it. We're in pretty good shape if we find it, though. Gamora mid. Okay. Come on, Cerebro. Oh, no Cerebro. Okay, so definitely starting to see some of the downsides of this deck here as well. Definitely needs to find its 1-2 punch for its entire game plan to come together, or you're presenting not enough kind of stats to really challenge enough locations. Alright, we have the brain in our opening hand. We have the brain in our opening hand. We're not playing into Death's Domain. We might play Brood into Death's Domain, though. We'll get some bodies over into that location that might not otherwise be able to get there. Kunlun is kind of whatever. Let's fill it up a little bit with Mystia Sinister. Make some bodies. Alright, this one's looking a bit better. Put with a Psylocke, sure. On reveal effects happen twice, huh? That one's not its best. Okay, alright. Actually, I think I would prefer to storm out Death's Domain if possible. Hopefully this Karmatage doesn't do too much damage. Stormed out the wrong location. Definitely stormed out the wrong location. Opponent has the Wong. We're going to fill up flooding with Brood. Blue Marvel would be our best draw here, I think. Ironheart are going to juice these things up to be rather large. Okay, so Scorpion, Invisible Woman. I guess the other way around is better, because... But we need this... okay, oh dear. I don't think this is going to be enough. Too many tigers! Oh. So this adds +4 to everybody. So 4, 8, 12, 16. So we are still live here to win this game. So I will play it out. And if we eat our cubes, we eat our cubes. Yeah, okay. This is I really wish I'd flooded out Karmatage game. Oh, wow. That one was pretty brutal, all in all, to be honest. Big sad. Opponent with 1,000,001 leftover tigers, this Ironheart going insane. I'm sure I'll cut down the edit time on this a little bit, because this animation is taking a hot second. Huh. Okay, it's over. It's alright. We can flip up our stuff and be nowhere close to winning this game. Brutal. Our entirely different game if we just flood out Karmatage. Ugh. Well, although we didn't have the best of times with this deck, honestly, we got a pretty good showcase of what it's trying to do. It does, unfortunately, suffer pretty heavily from location variance and needing to draw its main pieces. Otherwise, it kind of falls a little bit flat. However, it's definitely unique, definitely very cool, and definitely capable of making it infinite according to the user who submitted it. So well worth trying out if you've got the cards. This one is thankfully not too heavy on pool 3 stuff. It's mostly the namesake cards, so if you have them, you are mostly good to go. But beyond that, it's fun. It's definitely a unique way of playing the game, something a bit different for a refreshing change of pace. But definitely a little soft to locations, and your opponent's high rolls are definitely higher than yours. With that being said, definitely recommend trying it out if you can. If you haven't already, folks, please consider subscribing to the channel over here. We've got plenty more exciting stuff on the way that I really can't wait to share with you. But until next time, I have been HowlingMines, you have been amazing, and this has been Marvel Snap Zone. Take care, have a good one.